Okay. How y'all doing? Good? Let's roll. Hey, we're on page 111 in your books. I think Scotty mentioned that, but just in case you forgot, page 111. And so just a quick welcome back to Mandy Cisco here.
Hi,
y'all.
Glad
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Blair's.
That's awesome. So what we're going to do tonight is just start by sharing just a little bit more of our story. And so we got to share a little bit a few weeks back, but then kind of just give you a more complete picture maybe.
Yeah.
Would be good.
Tonight we thought we would talk about a little bit about how we met, since y'all heard a little bit of our wedding story before. So we met in 1999. I think that's right.
People are like, whoa, I wasn't even born.
I went back to the 90s. We met in 1999 at a summer camp, and this is really loud. It's too loud. Am I in everybody's face? Thanks.
You can bring it down. There's a magic man back there.
Bring it down. Okay, thanks. We met at summer camp, and the best way I can describe it is that we weren't very impressed with one another. That's
a good way. I thought she was kind of the stereotypical Baylor girl, super cute, but a little snooty. Yeah.
And I thought that he thought that he was better than he really was.
So true.
Those are our first impressions anyways.
Yeah.
But we ended up working together. We met in 99, and then we ended up working together the same summer in 2000. The next summer we worked together. And I was excited to get to know him and understand him a little bit better. The director seemed really impressed with him all the time, and I was on leadership and had to listen to all the, I thought, what is the big deal? So because I was kind of annoyed by it, I thought, well, I'm going to watch him and try to figure him out a little bit. And
checking me out?
I was checking you out
there you go.
From afar. So anyhow, I enjoyed getting to witness his care for kids and love for Jesus and charisma from afar. So it was good. And
I was intrigued as well. So the first day I showed up to camp that summer, she was taking pictures of all the staff. And I was like, all right, taking a picture of me. And that was before like selfies or cell phones and... Not really. But for me, it was like, I was like, Like it was a totally different experience than the year before, where I was like, totally kind of like, no thanks. And then to come back that summer and be like, okay, all right, I'm going to keep my eye on you as well. And so what I did is that I think I just kind of found myself wanting to be around her whenever I could be. And our fifth week at camp, for me, that was my work crew week. And so what that meant is we were kind of the ones serving all the dishes and meals and stuff behind the scenes. And we had a night off on a Tuesday. And so I was out at my sports clinic. I come running in, and about that time she runs out to the field. And she said, hey, I know work crew has night off tonight. I just want to see if you wanted to go out with me.
I did not say that.
No, I'm kidding. She didn't say that. No. And so she... So she comes running out. She just said, hey, I have my night off too. I'd love to go hang out with you guys. So I'll be in my car, because they got off earlier than the work crew. If you were on leadership, you got a little extra time. And so she was like, I got to go read for this, my job, and I need to take that care of. And I was like, okay. She goes, so come find me out in the parking lot when y'all go to leave. And I was like, okay. And so I start kind of walking back to my cabin, and I'm like, okay, this could maybe work. And so I started telling my friend, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to go out with Penske tonight. That was her camp name. I was like, I think I'm going to go out. I think I'm going to go out with her tonight. And he just kind of looked at me and he goes, laughed in my face. And of course, I had this soaring confidence, this may go well, to this isn't going to go well. She's going to say no. But I still was like, okay, we can do this. And so we're cleaning dishes and everything. And all the work crew's looking at me hey, what are we doing tonight? Where are we going? And I'm just kind of mum, scrub away. And so I leave the dining hall once we get everything cleaned up. I run back, I shower, and then I run as quick as I can to her car and try to beat everybody out before they're like, where are we going? What's going on? And so I get to the car and I look at it, open the door, and I said, hey, were you thinking we all go somewhere together, or were you thinking maybe just the two of us?
He always tells the story wrong. This is the difference. He got in my car and he shut the door and he said, where are we going?
I I just don't think I was that bold.
He was.
Yeah.
He was.
That's all right.
We lead with that story because we're talking on differences tonight, and that is a huge difference for us. He remembers that story completely differently. In the end, it worked out. We got married.
It did. Because that night, I just remember sitting at a picnic table that night, June 27th, 2000, and sitting there going, wow, like, this could be it. This could be it. And like, I don't know, we have a scrapbook with a picture of that picnic table at our home, and like, I just still remember that night. And it was really special.
It was fun.
I love it. All right. So as we talk about understanding your spouse, I think you guys know this, but let's go ahead and repeat it. No two people are exactly the same. Okay? Everyone is different. Okay? And if we're not careful, what can happen in relationships is that you begin to think that the way you approach life is right, and the way your significant other approaches life is wrong. Okay, and what can easily happen is it kind of leads to fixing one another, which then ultimately leads to conflict, okay? And so when you have differences in relationship, they can either strengthen or sour that relationship, okay? Those differences, they can become either your greatest asset or they can become kind of your deepest annoyance, okay? And so when it comes to differences in relationship, they can be physical, okay? Like for us, Mandy's brown hair and blue eyes. I've got brown eyes. Mandy's super tan. I'm pasty. Like there are physical differences. Obviously, body parts for guys and girls, like those are different. So yeah.
So if you get married and your husband is staring at you all the time, he's just admiring the differences. That's what I always think. Like, oh,
yes.
That's what it is.
13 years in, still admiring differences.
Differences can also be emotional. While we're both deep feelers, I think that Lance could be described more, he's steady, and my emotional status can be high and low, but somewhat predictable.
Yeah. I think with that, like, yeah, you could be sitting there in marriage and be like, why does she cry all the time? You know? And then on the other side of that, it's like, why doesn't he have a heart?
Yeah.
Doesn't he care, right? Differences can be just in your experiences. Okay, so Mandy grew up probably, what was that? Junior high on? High school on? Ended up at private school. So she went to private school. I was in a public school. And for her, she's the youngest of three. I'm the oldest of two. And so there's differences even there. For me, I grew up playing sports, which now has kind of led to this love of watching sports and taking in anything sports I can, coaching. And so for Mandy, she enjoys watching people at sporting events. And so that's just a difference that we have. I still remember like the first time we were at a football game. We had season tickets to Oklahoma State the first year of our marriage. Thank you, Bill. Yes. Go Pokes. So we had season tickets, and like we had watched all these games together. We go to this one game finally, and it's pouring down rain. So you got rain hood on, and just sitting there in the rain watching this game. And all of a sudden, she just starts asking me all these questions about football.
Which I would say it's impressive that I was sitting there in the rain. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
There we go. That's good. And so we're sitting there, and she's asking all these questions, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, there's a part of me that's like, this is awesome. Like and then I'm like, why is she just now asking these questions? And so I look over to her, and I'm like, babe, what? Tell me what's going on. And she goes, I can't see the people. Like, it says, like, because, like, everyone's in hoods. And so, like, she couldn't watch people. So it's like, I guess I'll watch the game. So, yeah.
You can have differences in your strengths, the things that you are your strengths or your giftedness. I think that I am a visionary a little bit more than Lance is, and a little bit more of an optimist, and I like to call him a detailed analyzer.
Yeah.
Which he says is just calling him a pessimist. But
it's a nice way of saying that, I think. Yeah. Okay. Some of it's personality, right, where your differences can show up. So Mandy is super extrovert, so her kind of personality is more, let's invite some other people. And I'm kind of like, hey, can we just avoid people? Okay? And so there's differences there.
Ways that you express love and receive love, you can be different in those ways. Also preferences regarding like how you want to spend your free time. Vacations, some people are kind of go and see people and for vacations, and other people want to do just sit and be on vacation. So those are some differences. Even food preferences, things that you choose to eat can be really different.
Yeah, my food library has grown immensely since being married to Mandy over 13 years.
We're getting Lance to eat his vegetables finally in his 30s.
That's right.
And he's made me a little bit more adventurous on things. He got me to even jump off a cliff in Mexico, which was a big deal for me.
Lots of screams.
Yes, lots of screaming.
For sure. There's even preferences regarding cleanliness, all right? So some of you are kind of those people that are everything has a place type people, and some of you are everything all over the place kind of people, okay? So here's a picture, just kind of point out what we're talking about.
Not good?
Yeah. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Got to read it all. And while this is funny, this is obviously a generalization. This doesn't mean that all men are clean and tidy and all women are messy. But differences, if not addressed, if all these things, even though some of them are funny now, once you're married, if they're not addressed, it can just lead to tension in your relationship. And so our hope for tonight is that we can talk about some of this stuff so that those are just little bumps in the road and not big hiccups. We spoke about this a little bit in our expectations talk, but the same differences that can be a strong source of attraction in the beginning of your relationship can actually lead to friction and frustration over time if they're not understood and embraced a little bit.
Yeah, and so I think the goal with differences isn't that those differences would push you further apart or drive a wedge between you guys, but the hope is that they'd actually bring you together, okay, in a deeper relationship than you had when you first met each other. And so here are kind of 3 things about our differences that we think will be helpful as you seek to understand your spouse, okay? The first one is this: our differences are from God. Our differences are from God. And in Psalm 139, 13 through 16, it says this. It says, "For you formed my inward parts." Okay, this is David. "You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was being made in secret, intricately woven in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them." Okay, and David just kind of continues to go on and on about this thing, but this is the amazingness of God's creation, right? Where he talks about this idea of you formed my inward parts, okay? And in that, realizing, hey, there's no mistakes in God's creation, okay? God doesn't make junk, okay? If any of you guys ever grew up going to Kanakuk and you heard Spike White, God don't make no junk, okay? He don't. And so we're each fearfully, wonderfully made, and yet I would just tell you, sometimes it's really hard for me to believe that about myself. And it's, sometimes easy to really, believe that about others, okay? And so I know for me growing up, here's a shot of both of us. I think this is 3rd grade, right? And growing up for me, I hated my freckles, okay? Hated them. And then for whatever reason decided that a perm in the back was a good idea, although I think it's back now. Yeah. So if you play baseball, for sure, it is. But I remember just praying, Lord, let these grow together, please. And that whole burn, freckle, peel, burn, freckle, peel, burn, freckle. And to read a verse you're fearfully and wonderfully made. Yes, I hate you, freckles.
I love those freckles.
And she loves them, which I'm good, we were meant to be together. Whereas Mandy can go outside for maybe 15 minutes and come back in and I don't even recognize her. That's how well she tans. Okay, so there are just differences there in how God has made us, and he's made us all unique, each one of us. Okay, Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." Okay, and Psalm, as we just read in that passage, it says, "Your eyes saw my unformed substance." Okay, and so there are significant and real differences in each of us. And those were developed in the mind of our Creator, okay? And so realizing that in relationship that, hey, our differences are a part of his plan, okay? And that everything about us comes from him.
Mm-hmm. And the second thing you need to know about differences is that they create a combined entity that is stronger than any one person. We really like Ecclesiastes 4:9 through 12. It says, 2 are better than 1 because they have good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. Again, if 2 lie together, they keep warm. But how can 1 keep warm alone? And though a man might prevail against 1 who is alone, 2 will withstand him. A 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. And I just love the reminder that 2 is better than 1. Differences are necessary to make marriage stronger. And we've seen this to be true in a couple of different areas. For our relationship, We've seen it to be true in our decision making. Lance tends to be the brake, and I tend to be the accelerator. And so we need each other so that our decisions in life are better decisions.
Some are freaking out because we're both brakes.
We're both brakes. You need community.
Right? Yeah.
But I've enjoyed that about him. I've had to grow to enjoy that. Let me say that. It didn't start out that way. I would always think, gosh, such a drag. Just come on. Let's do this or, whatever. And he would always be like, no, let's think about it. And he's helped me to make a lot of more wise choices because I've stopped, thought about it, prayed about it. And I've helped him to quit sitting around and not make the decision, but to actually pull the trigger and do it. So we've seen it in that way. We've also seen how it's helped in our trials. We've gone through some difficult times in our marriage and in our families and just things that have happened along the way in the last few years. And I've seen how when I'm really down, he's able to pull me up and be strong for the two of us and vice versa. The Lord's really gracious in that way of there's very few moments when we're both really low and down. And so I've enjoyed that. And then just giving a different perspective, seeing life through a different lens, both financially, relationally, spiritually, just being able to see things from a different viewpoint has been a really strong point for our relationship.
Yeah, when we were engaged, our last summer we were at camp, and it was probably midway through the summer. We went home to my hometown in Bartlesville to do a wedding shower type deal. And so we went, got all the wedding shower stuff. There was a part of us that thought, hey, we might end up. And so at this point of the summer, we had no jobs. We were getting married in August, a few months out. I'm starting to kind of freak out a little bit, being the detailed analyzer. And so as we went home, we did the shower. Then all of a sudden we started going, well, we probably should look at apartments and a place to live if we think we might end up here. And so we did. We drove by this house. It was for rent. And we were like, oh, it's so great. That's going to be awesome. So we called. The lady's like, hey, so someone's already locked into this. It'll be finalized next week. She was like, but if it falls through, I'll let you know. And we just said, hey, we're only here this weekend. So if we were going to see it, it would be today. Otherwise, I don't think we can do it. And so she was like, okay, well, let me just show it to you. Of course, we go over there and look at it, which was probably not the wisest decision.
He would never do that, knowing how what he knows about me now.
Yeah, and so literally as we're walking through this house, Mandy has all our furniture is in there, and she knows where stuff is going. And I was like, oh my gosh, God, you're crazy, woman. But we walk through and we kind of tell the lady, all right, well, just, I guess let us know. I mean, keep in mind, we're just checking it out. And so we go back to camp. That next week, all of a sudden, I'm walking through the middle of camp, and Mandy comes running like this. I'm like, what is happening? Total giddy. And I was like, what's going on? And she goes, the house is ours. The house is ours. And she's like, yes. I'm so excited. And I just look at her. And I go, we got no jobs. It was just one of those moments where difference-wise, she has moved in her mind, and I'm like, we have nothing. What are we thinking? And so,
I like to consider it that I just had real faith in the Lord.
That's true. Yeah, and I grew and was stretched so much at those times. So
it is a great story now. We look back when we do 2-on-2 counseling. I'm like, yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Be wiser than us. In week 3. I don't remember who did the roles talk for this group, but the Davises talked to you guys about roles, and that's a difference that's going to strengthen your marriage as well, is playing into those roles really well. And then ultimately, Scripture tells us in 1 Corinthians that God gave us unique gifts for the betterment of the church. So use your differences for the betterment of the church, because differences are good, and we want you guys to start to see them as really helpful and beneficial instead of a hindrance.
Good. And then the last thing we think is good about differences is that they're to be understood so that we can best serve and love our spouse. Okay, and 1 Peter 3:7 says this. It says, likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they're heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. And so before you kind of get bent out of shape, weaker vessel, what are you talking about? Hey, it's not about rank, okay, in this deal, it's about roles. And so I want to give you kind of a picture of that. So it's not about being inferior. but kind of more physically weaker. So if you look at these things, both of these are kind of drink options, something that you could get a drink out of, right? I think we could all agree if I grabbed a thermos and I threw it across the room, it's probably not going to get beat up near as much as if I took that wine glass and just went, all right, and threw it across the room. And so there are two very unique here. So when you hear that word weaker vessel, it isn't like, oh, you're just somehow mentally weaker or anything like that. That this is just how things are made and how God's designed these differences, okay? And so I would just tell you too, when it comes to these differences that you have, it's not always enjoyable. Okay, a lot of these that we share with you today, like we can laugh at them now, right? But in that moment, like that wasn't something that we were like, oh, I delight in your differences. It's like some of that takes time, okay? And the path to being stronger together with our differences, like I said, isn't always easy, okay? And so sometimes it's tough to walk through those and then to just fully comprehend them in one another. And so in order to live with your spouse in an understanding way, you need to become a student of your spouse. Okay, and so becoming a student starts from the day you first met. Okay, and so for a lot of you guys, like you are just aware and you are alert. You're aware of the things they enjoy. You're aware of things that are going to make them smile. You know their favorite places to eat, their favorite snack, like all these things that you've started learning about each other. But what you need to realize is that is something that needs to continue on throughout your marriage. Okay, that you would continue to learn. And as they change, that you begin to learn some of those differences in the way that they've changed. And then part of that, too, is letting go of who you think your spouse should be and to really learn who God created them to be. Okay, so letting go who you think they should be and to learn who God created them to be.
And since we're talking about being a student of your spouse, some of you might be wondering what that actually means. We have a clip from a well-known show, and while we obviously don't endorse everything on this show, this is a really good clip to kind of show you what we mean about being a good student of your spouse.
Okay, I'm confused. You're saying that if she tells me she has a problem, I'm not supposed to help her?
Not unless she asks for your help.
But if she lets me help her, I can make her problem go away.
That is such a male thing to say.
Well, forgive me for being a man.
Mango or kiwi?
Ooh, kiwi.
When you say, do this or do that, all she's hearing is, I'm smarter than you.
Believe me, she doesn't think that.
She doesn't want you to solve her problems. She just wants you to give her support so that she can solve her problems herself.
Yes, and sometimes she just wants a sympathetic ear.
Whoa. Whoa. Maybe it's all the creams, but that just made sense, girlfriend. So if Claire says, I hate getting stuck in traffic, I shouldn't say, maybe you should leave earlier, or don't get on the freeway. I should just say, I know, it's so frustrating.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
And if she says, the waiter I had today was so rude, I shouldn't say, maybe you should just order something on the menu for once. No. I should just say, what a jerk.
Yes.
And if she says, Phil, the TV's driving me crazy, I should just say, I know, there is not enough quality programming for women.
No. Turn off the damn TV.
Okay, now I'm confused again.
What are you doing with my sweater? Oh my God, it's ruined! It was an accident! I knew this would happen, you idiot!
Hey, let's try to get along.
I wish she was never even born! They were trying to make one with a brain!
No! Honey, you guys are both pretty smart.
Oh. It's that sweater, huh?
Yeah, it is. That sweater. And I did everything I can to stop them from fighting.
I don't understand why they can't see how much you love them.
I don't know. Meanwhile, Cheryl has been calling me all day because she's angry I didn't show up.
Doesn't Cheryl have a housekeeper and a nanny? Why does she need so much help?
I know, right?
You work so hard. You do so much.
I do.
Of course you do.
I do. I do. Oh, sweetie, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Hey.
Yeah.
Who's my gal?
I am.
Darn right.
Yeah.
I love that clip.
All the
That's
ladies are like, yes, yes, yes.
Just like that. So the important thing that we want you to take away from that is just that we never stop changing, and therefore you can't ever stop learning about your spouse. It's a lifelong process. So the learning doesn't stop when you say, I do at the altar. It just continues. And we want you to acknowledge that you're different from each other. And so you have to press in and really start to learn. And listen, this is the fun part. This is what I really enjoy about being married, is that I get to listen and observe and ask good questions and just watch him and try to figure it out. Because there's no more fun feeling than being like, oh, I got that right. You know?
I get it. I understand. And so there were plenty of times, like still in our relationship, even earlier on, where I was like, okay, help me understand that. Like, what just happened there? Mm-hmm. Like, and for her to be able to kind of go, all right, here's the mind of a woman. Peel it back.
Or at least the mind of me right now, today.
That's right, which is helpful. And so that helps quite a bit, beginning to learn just like what brings them life, what recharges them, and then how do I help them have that time? What will lighten their load? Okay, and so after 13 years, like my wife is just an all-star with this. Like there are just times where I come home and things that, like the other day, this was just this week. I had made a sign, like this wooden sign, and it was supposed to go to the neighbor, and I was like, just never had time to put the little thing on the back to hang it from the wall. And I get home and it's gone, the sign's gone, and so she had put the thing on there, and then she had given it to the people that it was supposed to go to, and I was like, oh, how awesome is that? Like that's her becoming a student of me and learning to go, I know that will bless him, like to just take care of that. And so we're both then trying to help each other out in that. Mm-hmm. And learning what stresses them out. How can you alleviate that stress for them? I think even from a sexual standpoint, so as you look back at last week, learning that about one another. What do they enjoy? What feels good? Like how do I help them, just learn them in this area? Okay, and that speaks volumes to them. And so if you don't live with your spouse in an understanding way, like what's the negative implications for that? The scripture actually says that your prayers will be hindered. Okay, that your prayers will be hindered. And if left unaddressed, your relationship will become a breeding ground for bitterness. Okay, and so that lack of understanding, it leads to relational drift. Okay, and so if you just stop being learners, you stop seeking to understand, you'll watch as you kind of just start to drift this direction, okay? And you've got to kind of recommit to going, no, I'm going to be a student of my spouse, because if you're not a student, you'll quickly become strangers. And so practically, how do you live with your spouse in an understanding way? Philippians 2 lays that out there for us, okay, where it basically says, do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. It says, let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Okay, and it goes on to explain all of that, how Christ lived this out for us, but we then get to live that out with our spouse. And so I know this is a verse that's popped up over and over again over the 8 weeks. It isn't just from us. Mm-hmm. It's from different speakers who have said, Philippians 2. Like it is a marriage verse that I think shows up in all different areas of your marriage. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you're going to have multiple opportunities to live that out for one another. That dying to self, okay, dying to your wants, to your desires, to your preferences, and to live for the other. And so living out Philippians 2 and really, becoming that student of your spouse and living them with them in an understanding way is you giving of yourself for the good of the other. Okay, in all areas and avenues of your relationship. And so the problem with that, what makes that difficult, is that in the words of the great theologian T.O., like, I love me some me, okay? And we all love me some me, right? And that's a lot of the ways we live our lives. And there are just ways we think things should go. And it's hard for us to die to our preferences there. And so it makes it really hard to do that. And so how do we kind of practice being disciplined in that area? We've got kind of 3 things for y'all here.
So the first one is to discover your differences. You can't understand what you don't know or what you're just assuming. So we want you to really dig in and discover what the differences are between the two of you. Ephesians 5:33 says, however, each one of you, husbands, also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. And Emerson, I always butcher his last name, so excuse me, but Egrich.
It's great.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Wrote a book called Love and Respect. And this is a pretty good resource for you guys before you get married. It's really helpful to discovering differences. It is based on really large stereotypes, kind of like we talked about before, but if you can look beyond that, he describes a woman's greatest need as the need to feel loved and a man's greatest need as the need to feel respected. And so in thinking about the woman and her need to feel loved, he describes her desire for 3 things. And I would agree with this when I read this. So a woman wants to feel loved, so she needs closeness. And for us, what that looks like for me is when he's like rubbing my feet or rubbing my hair, or even just going to bed at the same time helps me to feel close to my husband. When he's not, I'm going to bed and he's still watching baseball, or he goes to bed because I'm up late doing something. Like when we go to bed together, I can feel that closeness and so therefore feel loved. The other point below feeling loved is openness, just sharing deeply. And Lance and I have always kind of had this analogy of men are kind of like Post-it notes and women are like legal pads. And as far as conversation goes, and so he knows that for me to feel that openness from him, that he needs to lengthen his Post-it notes a little bit. I want to hear more from him, and I want him to kind of hear more from me as well. And then esteem. I feel most loved when he speaks value into me and speaks kindly of me, either toward me or maybe says it to the kids about me, things like that. And then it just makes me feel esteemed in his eye and in his view. And those 3 things, closeness, openness, and esteem, kind of fuel a woman's need to feel loved, or at least this is what Egrich says. He also says that the man's greatest need to feel respected has some desires too. He has a desire for conquest, just that desire to achieve. And so verbally encouraging Lance, verbally encouraging your spouse and making sure that they feel like they've conquered something in that day, helps them a lot. Also a desire for relationship, doing things shoulder to shoulder. And I've seen this to be true in our marriage. Lance loves doing things together, fun things, whether it's at the beginning of our marriage, we started this ballpark challenge, and it's really kind of come to a sad halt since we've had children, but we're still aiming for it. But he loves baseball, and so he wants to go to these different ballparks together, and that really gives him that desire for relationship like he likes. And then our first year anniversary trip, we just went camping through 6 different states in 7 days. In the car together, camping together, mountain bike riding together.
Whitewater rafting,
just all of these things. And that just really spoke relationship to him as well. And then sexually, men have a desire sexually. And so a man wants to be known, understood, cared for, and respected in that area as well. And that helps that desire, that helps that need to feel respected.
Good.
Yep.
Another way to discover your differences is to know your love languages. And so we talked a little bit about that at the beginning of just ways that your differences show up. And so if you guys, how many of you guys have heard of the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman? So, okay, some of you guys have picked it up. I remember we read it when we were engaged, and to talk through just the differences in how we express love and how we receive love. And so there's words of affirmation, there's acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, physical touch, all 5 of those. And so it's great to kind of really think through that and to go like, hey, well, what does speak love to me? Because all too often what happens is we like to try to show love in the way that we receive love. Okay, and I've watched that happen even in my parents' relationship. My dad, I think, loves to receive gifts, so he shows love by giving gifts. And so there's just been a number of times where growing up where I'd watch him give gifts to my mom, and that just wasn't her love language. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, great. And he's like, you're so ungrateful. It's like, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden you see this escalation of like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? Well, it was because he was attempting to try to speak his love language to her in a way that she goes, that's not how I receive it. And so oftentimes, like I said, we tend to give love in the way that we like to receive it. And so it's great if you share the same love languages, but a lot of times that ours are different. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so we must learn to send love in forms that the other person can comprehend. And so Mandy is quality time girl. And I would say since we have kids, become kind of this minor in acts of service. Mm. Okay? So the dishwasher now, loading and unloading of that is like, boy, love you, know? Yeah. Whereas before it's just kind of like, yeah, it's whatever. But,
and I would say Lance has a double major in physical touch.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. And so I think part of that too, though, is you see that change. You see where you have different seasons. So some of you are going, man, I think I'm all 5. I'm like, man, that's really great, because then you will receive love in all those different 5 ways. But you'll see those change from time to time. And so you've got to, again, be committed to being a learner in those areas as well. And so those are 2 great resources. If you're looking for something to read, like a next step after Merge, those are great books to pick up. I think also there's books called For Men Only and For Women Only by Jeff and Shanti Feldhahn. Those are great books to kind of give you a man's perspective, a woman's perspective. Again, you could easily read through that and be like, oh, these are all stereotypes. That's not how I feel. Well, hey, it's great. Explain how you feel. Okay, if that's not you, you can now explain you to your significant other. Personality inventories are great. It's like Myers-Briggs, DISC. Those are all listed out in your books. You guys can check those out in the homework. If you never did the homework from week 6 on expectations, that will teach you so much about each other and the different ways that you guys come into a relationship like that.
So after discovering your differences, we want you to not reject them, like, ugh, hate that difference, but actually to embrace them. So that's number 2, embrace your differences. None of our differences are wrong. That's who God made us to be. We want you to believe the best about your spouse and not assume the worst. Paul Tripp says, when we have issues with our spouse and the way they're made, our issue isn't really with the other person, but with the God that made that person. And so just remember that it can also be really deflating to be married to somebody who doesn't think that you're that great. Kind of like when we met each other and we're like, oh, I'm not super impressed. We want you to embrace those differences. And it might not seem easy. Sometimes it is hard to embrace differences, but Proverbs 18:2 reminds us to seek to understand. It says, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. And then Proverbs 19:11 says, good sense makes one slow to anger, and it is to his glory to overlook an offense. And so we want you to seek to understand one another and to overlook differences or offenses. And then just sometimes it's okay to agree to disagree. There are a lot of things that because of his personality and his wiring and my personality and my wiring, well, it's not a hill we need to die on. Just I see that differently than you see that. Let's move on. And so there are some areas when you can do that. But also just look for the good in your differences. Sometimes it can seem kind of annoying, but if you look really deep, you can find goodness to them. Just kind of like I said, he was the brake and I'm the accelerator. There really is some good in that. And it can save you some grief in the long run. I can't remember when we went on that camping trip. Do you remember when it was?
It's like November.
November-ish. It's kind of funny because, so we're trying to take 6 people camping and we have a Suburban, but we want to take bicycles. You can imagine, right? Like the entire back half is like filled to the brim and
kids are sitting under pillows and bags.
Stuff everywhere. We had so much stuff. But I knew if I try to squeeze one more thing for Lance to fit in the Suburban, he might lose it. I already could see it in his eyes. He wasn't saying anything. He was being really good about just kind of wedging things.
When you're loading and all of a sudden you're sweating and you're like, oh, great. Why are we taking this?
So I was
me probably that has that problem.
But I had just received some really pretty flowers and I was like, oh, these would look so pretty on the picnic table at the campsite. But I embraced the difference, and I took them, and I just put them on the floorboard next to my purse, and I thought, if I have to take care of it, I'm not asking him to find a place for them. We have a picture. I was like, I'm just going to try to just carry them myself, and then it won't be a big deal. He literally took a picture and said, this is a Merge illustration. So we brought you the picture.
The whole back of the car is packed out. All of a sudden, I look at the front floorboard, I'm like, flowers, of course. Yes, we need these.
It's important.
Embrace it. Love it. Yeah.
Our campsite was really pretty, though, huh, babe?
It really was. Mm-hmm. It made a big difference. Yeah. Non-joking aside, you guys are still on the pre-married side of marriage. And so here's the deal. I say this in all seriousness. You can still walk away. You can look at your differences tonight and go, you know what? That's a lot of differences. And I'm not sure that that's what's best for us, and you can walk away. The really hard part comes when the vows have been said, then it's done. You are committed to one another, and those differences are something you have decided you are going to embrace for a lifetime. So just think about that tonight. Have some table talk about it. Just take that seriously. There's a lot of differences that you can embrace. There are some things like spiritual differences. That is not something you should embrace.
You should walk away from that. You want to be equally yoked. You want to be on the same page because you can't walk in the same direction when you've got two different goals in mind. Somebody that wants kids and doesn't want kids, that's not going to work, people. You got to walk away from that. Your definition of marriage, if you have a different definition for what marriage is, then you've got a problem and you're not going to be able to stay committed to one another. So there's some serious differences that you need to really be on the same page about. And then there's some things that you go, okay, we are really different in this arena, but I am willing to stay committed to those differences for the rest of the time.
We have great friends who are just so different.
Super
right?
different.
And so there's areas where they just have to work harder on their relationship.
Yeah.
And so part of your time over dating and engagement is to go, man, do I want to work that hard? Do I want those things? And then part of it too is just realize, like, you're going to have differences with anybody that you step into a relationship with, right? Like, you're not going to be the complete identical person, and probably that would annoy you even more than being different from the other person. And so once you've discovered and embraced them, the last step is to celebrate your differences, okay? And so celebrate the fact that these differences are making you more like Christ and ultimately preparing you for eternity, okay? And that's probably some of the greatest parts of our differences is just seeing how Mandy has helped me to become more kind and more gentle with our kids. The ways that, she's helped me to just understand my daughter's heart and how to pursue her and to love her well. Like, there are just differences that we have that I just go, gosh, I'm so thankful for that. And vice versa in our lives. And so just remember, like, our differences don't surprise God. Okay, they're part of the journey he has for us, and he's up to something way bigger than us. And so we need to begin to see and to celebrate the differences as an opportunity for growth and begin to be thankful for them, okay? And sometimes that's hard in the moment, but to be able to go back later and to look at that and to go like, hey, I need you to know this. Like, I did not respond well to those differences in this moment, but I'm so thankful for it. Like, that really is helping me to become more like Christ. And so in marriage, we've got to rely on the other person the other person's strengths to help us to become more like Jesus, okay? And so questions for you guys tonight as you're kicking this around is, does your potential spouse, future spouse, help you become more like Christ? For some of you, you go, man, that may not even be a goal of yours as you sit in here. Like, we hope that it will be, because what we've seen over time is that all relational problems are first spiritual problems. Mm-hmm. And when you get that relationship right with God and with the Lord, all of our other relationships seem to fall into place. And when we are off kilter when it comes to our relationship with the Lord, like, we are off with each other. And so, guys, there's a unique opportunity before you. Okay, guys, Ephesians 5 is clear for you. You are to lead. Okay, ladies, if he's not leading you well physically, if he's not honoring you, why would you expect him to lead you well after the vows? Okay, after you're married. So you need to kick that around. Ladies, he needs to honor you, to cherish, to nourish you. Okay, you are more than just an object or some source of pleasure for him. Okay, and so if he's not leading you well, if you know you're not leading her well, right, confess that. Ask forgiveness, and you come near to your leaders and have them walk with you through it. Guys, for you, okay, marry someone who's going to help you become more like Christ, right? And so the questions for you that you need to be asking, man, is she encouraging you? Is she affirming you in your giftedness, or just beating you down? Okay, is it just a whip every time you guys are around each other? Is she engaging in sin with you? Or is she a suitable helper? Someone who really helps you make up for what is lacking in you with her strength. Okay, like, that's what you're looking for. Does she sharpen you? Okay, to help you become a better man. And so just begin to ask. If you haven't already started asking those questions, ask those questions. Talk about those things together, okay? And so to summarize and to get you on to table time, our differences are from God, okay? So we learned that early on. They're from God. They can lead to a greater good, okay? Or they can lead to great disappointment. Okay, and so we need to seek to understand them, to be students of our significant other, so that we can discover, we can embrace, and then we can celebrate. Okay, you don't want to just live your whole life dealing with the differences. Okay, you want to be able to jump into a place where you go, okay, I see these differences. They're from God. They're good. Like, and how do we begin to get to a place where we can celebrate those? And so at your tables now, you'll have some questions that are going to come up on the screen, but just how are you doing at discovering those differences? And what's your significant other doing to help you to become more like Christ? Okay? And then I think, too, just realizing, hey, for some of you, you haven't had the opportunity to recognize a lot of those differences. Okay? But as you begin to live in more close proximity with another person, that's when you're going to really start to begin to see those differences, okay? But it's a commitment that you're going, I need to be ready to make that now to embrace those differences. So take some time at the tables, and then I'll come and wrap us up a little bit later. So thanks, guys. Last thing here, and that's on page 113 in your books. Okay, we've got a couple of more blanks for those of you who are going, hey, are we going to get those? I want to make sure my whole book is filled in, right? And so this is like a badge of honor for you to have that all done. So page 113, right, is kind of a little summary page here. It says this: all marriages start off with strong intentions. However, oftentimes our selfishness gets in the way. Okay, and so by being here at Merge over these past 8 weeks, you've shown us that you've had the best of intentions for your relationship. Okay, we've seen that in you guys. But here's the deal. Completing Merge doesn't mean that you won't have marriage problems someday. Okay? This isn't something where you can just put your relationship on cruise control. Okay? We get selfish in life, and we get selfish in marriage. Okay? And so don't allow that to get in the way. And so we hope that you have the tools. We hope that your heart even has been transformed in just your understanding of what it looks like to be married well, to combat those selfish desires. And so in order to combat them, the Bible encourages us to become students of our significant other. Okay, and so we talked about that tonight, this idea of discovering, embracing, and celebrating. Okay, not just taking your differences and trying to deal with them. Okay, but learning how to delight in these differences and the different ways that God has made us. And so the reason we share these things with you guys is because there's a lot at stake here. Okay, and you need to know the leaders around you, we don't envy the decision that you have to make. Okay, because who you marry is a no matter what type of decision. Okay, it's a decision that says no matter what. And as Mandy mentioned, as someone who's pre-married, you still have an opt-out. Okay? And so it's not our hope and our goal that we'd walk through this class and we go, wow, that was 100% breakup rate. Awesome, we rule. No, that's not the plan. Okay? Our hope is that you would prepare you for a lifelong marriage. But some of you sit here tonight going, man, I don't know that this is it. Right? You don't. And you're unsure of that. And so we're just asking you to choose wisely because there's a lot at stake. Okay? Peace and marital satisfaction is at stake. Even bigger than that, marriage and God's kingdom as a tangible expression of his love for the world is at stake. Okay? And that's a big deal. Okay? And for some of you, I know you don't get that or understand that idea of just that God's glory is at stake. Okay? And this is an opportunity for us to point back to him. And so we talked about that idea of back in week 1 where this gap between God's design for marriage and the world's view and understanding of it is gargantuan. Right? That it's huge. And so my hope is that over these 8 weeks we've raised the value of marriage for you. Okay? I hope that you've been challenged to view marriage in a different way. Right? Where you keep from cheapening marriage. Where you've raised the value and you begin to see the magnitude that God gives it. Because here's the deal, that decision of who you marry impacts more than just you. Okay, there's more going on in this thing than just your happiness. And I hope you've seen that along the way. This thing called marriage is your opportunity to show the watching world a compelling, thriving view of marriage. Our world is not doing a great job at that right now. The church is not doing a great job at that right now. And I just go like, what if we made that look different? Okay, what if you begin to offer the world going, no, like marriage can be great. Because I think a lot of people doubt that that's possible. And so I want you to ask yourself as you walk out of here, ask yourself when you're married this question: what is my relationship with my significant other showing the world about God's love for them? Because it's going to be an opportunity to show them the way that God loves them. Okay, and so for some of you, the best picture you've seen of marriage has been from your leaders over these last 8 weeks. And so our ask for you then is if you choose to go down this path toward marriage, that you'd go and do likewise. Okay, as they've led, as they've showed you a compelling, thriving view of marriage, that you would go and do likewise. That in your relationship, you would be like Jesus with one another. And what I will just tell you is it will change everything. And what I want to close with for you guys tonight is a story. It's another Merge couple who sat in the very same chairs that you guys sit in tonight. And I want you to see how God changed everything for them. So check this out.
We definitely did not start dating or our relationship with Christ in the center of it.
Gabe and I moved pretty quickly in our relationship. I moved in after, I would say, 3 months. It was really, really quick.
Our relationship took a turn. It took a turn for the worse.
We were fighting all the time, very unhappy, and we were both seeking the world and everything it had to offer. About 6 months in, I found out that he was looking at porn, and I confronted him about it. And it was almost like no matter what he said, it wasn't going to be good enough because I had put all of my trust in him and not in the Lord.
Essentially, my life was a mess. I was living for the flesh in every possible way. I wasn't a believer at the time, and Whitney was.
I was really worried about if he was going to heaven or not, or if he had a relationship with Jesus Christ. And the longer that I lived with him, the more convicted I was about living with him and about his salvation. So I asked him if he would want to attend Watermark.
I really had no idea what church was like. It was just a building full of love. That's the best way that I could describe it. And I'd never felt anything like that ever in my life. I remember it was September 2.5 years ago, hearing the worship music played a completely different, it was playing in my heart, not in my head. So we sat there with tears rolling down my eyes. The entire worship center had cleared out. I didn't want to go anywhere. There was nowhere else that I could be. Just like that, a member of the church just walks up. He asked if I had a relationship with Christ. I said I didn't, but I want one. My life at that point was changing radically day by day.
I remember seeing you cry, and it was really hard for me to see, but I was so happy. And that day I recommitted my life to Christ. I needed that. I was so broken. He was willing to put God first before me. And it really taught me that that's what I should have been doing in my own life. And not resting on Gabe, but resting in Christ and what he's done for me.
The next step for us was to focus on a relationship. I just proposed to Whitney on Valentine's Day 2012.
And I shared with my leader that I felt really convicted about living with Gabe. She was really encouraging. Try out Merge and see what they tell you. And why don't you take the premarital class, let them know you're living together, be open about it.
We walk into Merge and it was full of love, encouragement, and just positivity.
They came to us and they said, hey, we know that we're not supposed to be living together. We see the scripture. We both want to do what God wants us to do, but Whitney was unable to make an income.
They really wanted to find a solution, but things kind of kept falling through.
We knew that there was this option at the property that Gabe's brother managed. We knew, roughly what that would cost. I called Molly. I think we were driving separately. I called Molly on the phone and was just like, so what do you think?
We both find out that they want to help me move out by paying my rent, which Gabe and I were very taken aback by.
We totally trusted Gabe and Whitney's heart. That kind of drives home the whole point of believers supporting each other, looking after each other.
God definitely humbled me. I would say that's the most humbled that I've ever been. But ever since, we've been living apart.
God didn't stop there. He redeemed our relationship. He let us date again. I was able to pick Whitney up at a place other than my house, be astonished at how beautiful she looked, have my breath taken away, have my butterflies in my stomach.
It was just a whole new picture for me. We started our lives completely over. We've been living together for 3 years. It's crazy to look back and see how much we were missing when we were not pure. Our relationship has grown immensely with the Lord and with each other just by being pure. I think it makes me look forward, and I'm sure you as well, to our wedding day even more.
To see them work through what's come up so far in their dating relationship, it's one of those weddings you're going to sit at and know that they can do this. They're going to get through whatever life throws at them.
And I just can't wait to see the light that they are and continue to be as a married couple.
I'm really excited to marry Gabe. He is my best friend. I can't picture myself looking down the aisle and seeing anyone else.
Whitney's an amazing person, an amazing friend.
He is one of the only people that I can be myself with and act completely silly and goofy.
She can make me laugh, she can make me smile, she can make me cry. The best possible tears.
The anticipation of waiting for the wedding day is killing me, and I can't wait to see his face when those doors open, to zone in on him and just not think about what else is going on and only think about him and what the Lord is about to do with us.
God chose her to be a tool to bring me to him, and I can't wait to pursue him together. I really have to marry Whitney. It's driving me nuts. I have to marry her.
You know, here's Mr. and Mrs. Gabriel Rodriguez. That's just the sound of that.
And I just can't wait to like live with her and be with her and pursue God with her. It's going to be an amazing journey. I know this.
In February 2013, we played that video, The Lights Come Up, and on stage is Gabe and Whitney for their wedding. And so, at our marriage conference, we did a wedding. Why? Because we wanted to remind the people there of the vows that they took with one another. And on that day, man, Gabe and Whitney, became husband and wife. And I share their story because there's no more normal couple than Gabe and Whitney. Right? Their dysfunction is very similar to ours. And yet when you see a couple who submitted their lives to Christ and how God stepped in, everything changed. And here they are, they're a few years into marriage. It hasn't all been easy. Just as we've told you guys, like there are challenges, there are hard parts of marriage and relationship, okay? But they've continued to stay grounded. They haven't isolated. They've stayed connected with other people. And they're using their relationships to point other people to Christ. Okay, and what I would tell you with Gabe and Whitney, your leaders, a lot of them have similar stories. Y'all know them now. And yet your leaders are now using their relationships to steward and to point people to Christ. Okay, in fact, how many of y'all went through Merge or been through a foundation group here at Watermark before? Okay, so like most of you, right? And then those of you who haven't, it's because you showed up here and you're going, I wish I had that, because I've talked to you. Okay, and so as we talked about this idea of you guys going and doing likewise, like when God changes lives, like there's a wake of changed lives behind it. Okay, and it's our hope that you might even someday have a merge table, right? As you sit here at your own merge table, like that's our hope. Like that's what we'd love to see happen. That God so impacted you, that He so impacted your relationship, that now you're fired up about the possibility of jumping in and leading someday as well. Right, and not just here. Our hope is that you steward your relationship with your coworkers, with your friends, with your families, that they would see something different in you guys. Okay, that would make them question and begin to ask, what is it that's different? Okay, and so Merge is ending, but what I want you to know is the work isn't over. Okay, you can't just put your relationship on cruise control and expect that it'll all go well. Okay, that work will continue. It starts with homework next week. And then beyond that, just conversations that y'all need to have. Things that you need to process, like, is this where we're headed together? Toward marriage, toward that commitment that God has given us. And so, one last time, just challenging you guys, choose wisely, okay? Choose wisely. And so many of you guys, you're leaving here and you're ready, right? The date's on the calendar. Some of you, you're seriously dating and you're hoping that, yeah, this is it, right? We feel like we are all green lights. And you feel better about your relationship than when you walked in here 8 weeks ago. But for some of you, have more questions than answers at this time, okay? And for some of you, it may be that you need to tap the brakes or you need to put things on hold for a bit. And I'm sure the thought of delay kind of puts a strain on things. It can kind of be frustrating. It can feel like, is this forever? And I think what I want to share with you guys is that I get it, okay? And in fact, every time I fly, I'm reminded of this little principle here because, when you're flying and you get to the gate and that plane has been delayed, right? And you find out that, the plane's delayed and it's mechanical failure or something like that. And you're going, oh my gosh, like really? What the heck? And you're so perturbed because you need to get somewhere. You have a plan mapped out. You know when you're going to get there and be there. And all of a sudden now they're telling you, no, that's not going to happen. Probably 3-4 more hours. You're just going to sit here. And that delay just eats at you and it frustrates you. But in those moments, I have to remind myself of one thing. And it's the very thing I want to remind you guys of tonight. And here it is. It's far better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than being in the air wishing you were on the ground. Okay? So as much as that frustration gets to you and you get that delayed flight and you're going, please, like I would much rather know on the ground than to be in the air and they go, the right engine is out and now the left. Oh, crud. We should have stayed on the ground, right? And I would just tell you the same is true with marriage. Right? Have the hard conversations. We are not trying to steal your joy. We are not trying to kill that beautiful day that you had planned and what you thought that would look like. We are trying to help make sure you walk into a right relationship with one another. Okay? And so it's a big deal. So choose wisely. The second is this, don't isolate. okay? Some of you, this is the first experience with community you've had. Don't isolate. Continue to seek others who are going to speak into your life and into your relationship, okay? People who you can trust, okay, are going to offer biblical advice and not just worldly wisdom, okay? That the world would say is how this thing should work. And so take advantage of what the church has to offer. For some of you, Regen might be that next step. For some of you, it's engagement, marriage, and on into a foundation group. But don't isolate. The couples that end up in trouble here are always isolated when they show up here. There's no one in their life to speak truth into them. So don't isolate. Continue to seek out community. And the last one is this: humble yourself. Humble yourself. Okay? We talk about James 4 a lot, where it says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. And we've mentioned this as well. So do spouses. Okay? Humility is essential for great marriages. And so don't set yourself up in direct opposition to God. Humble yourself. Be a learner. And grow together in marriage. And so, man, I want to close in prayer, and we'll let y'all out of here. But I do want to we had a lot of thanks with AV and Emily and your leaders. I also want to thank you, right, for let me get to do this. Like, this is my job. And that blows me away, that I get to wake up each day and to come here and to help couples prepare for marriage. And I want you to know your leaders feel the same way. Thank you for coming here, giving us the opportunity to walk alongside you guys and to help you hopefully come out of this thing with just a clear picture of your relationship and hopefully clear pictures for next steps for you guys as you head out. So let me pray for you guys. Father, we love you. I love you. And Lord, I'm grateful that you would bring couples here to Watermark. Lord, some who are plugged in here, others who had never heard of this place until they walked in here 8 weeks ago. Lord, but I thank you that you've given us an opportunity to speak about your grand design for marriage. Father, I thank you for just that beautiful picture of marriage, Lord, for bringing man and woman together. Father, I pray that we would not cheapen that design. Lord, that we would not settle for something that's less than your best. Father, I pray that you'd give us the courage and the boldness to have any of the difficult, hard conversations that we need to have, both before the vows and even after the vows. I pray that in that you would help us to be humble, Father God, that we'd be teachable. Father, that you'd help us to point one another toward you. And Lord, I also just pray that those couples, Lord, that do walk toward the altar, Lord, that you'd give them incredible marriages. Father, they would be full of happiness, Lord God, but in the midst of that, Lord, they would become more like you each day. And Father, they would see that their marriage isn't just about them, but it is an opportunity to bring other people to you and to give other people an understanding of your love, your grace, your mercy, and your forgiveness. And so, Father, as we roll out of here tonight, man, we recognize everything's from you. A great design for marriage and relationships. Lord, everything is through you. Lord, that the only way that we can do this right, Lord, is through you and through the power of your Spirit. And then ultimately, Lord God, all things are to you. And so, Lord, if these relationships continue on and move toward marriage, I pray that they would be marriages that point to you. Lord, and offer the world hope. And so we recognize from you, through you, and to your all things, and to your name be the glory forever. Amen. Amen.